Hi, I'm Denise Martins, and I'm running for External Affairs Commissioner of the CSA. I've been involved in many of the External Affairs Commissioners campaigns, and I've taken part of things like drop fees and the fax-offs, and I found it very rewarding. For example, during the fax-off, a student came up to me and just ranted for about 5 minutes about the daycare program and things that were being cut, things that she felt to be inadequate. I had a chance to connect with students and talk to students about what they thought about tuition fees and what they wanted McGinty to know, but basically what they wanted to rant about. And I think it's important for the CSA to engage students in this way and ask students why the same tuition fees need to be dropped. And I think it's important to engage students in this way. I mean, as well as take action in different ways, work with government, lobby government, but most importantly, engage students and understand what their needs are. And I found this experience to be very rewarding. I found working with the External Affairs Commissioner in many campaigns to be very rewarding, and that's why I'm running this year. Yes, I currently sit on the board of the CSA. I sit in Oprah's alternate seat, and I've attended many meetings, and I understand how these meetings go along and how to participate in these meetings. I've also been part of the Policy Bylaw and Review Committee within the CSA. I know how the CSA runs, and I understand it. I feel like experiences through the clubs that I've been part of and a club that I started and experience with students against sweatshops and working with labor unions on our campus will help me create a better connection between labor unions and our union and other student unions. One of the first things I want to do is connect better with the labor unions on our campus. And I'll say that again once I look at this. Okay. One of the first things I want to do is create better connections with all the labor unions on our campus. I feel like these unions represent the people that make our university work, as well as students make the university work, and they're a main component of the university, and so our voice drives the university. So this is why the CSA is so important. But I also think labor unions are very important and that we should be working and we should be giving them as much solidarity as we can and be working with them and showing them as much support as we can. Also, I want to work towards more accessible education. This is a huge component of the External Affairs Commissioner's portfolio. I think it's good to be lobbying the government. I think the strategies put in place have been good. I think we need to create better connections with other student unions if we expect any change to take place. But I also think it's important to note that international student fees are not regulated by the government, but are actually fully controlled by the administration. So while we should be looking at the government and we should be working with the government, we should also be working with the administration and helping international students move forward as well, because they're paying over $9,000 per semester. So I think that's one of the many issues I want to tackle. Yes, in my platform I talk a lot about library hours. And the reason I brought up library hours is because after, one is I'm a student and I've been at the library at 2 in the morning. I've been kicked out of the library at 2 in the morning and had nowhere to go. So that's one of the reasons. But secondly, I think it connects very well with the need to communicate with other unions. Because McGill students fought for 24-hour library access, and they got it, and so did Laurier and York Federation of Students. And so we need to learn from this, and we need to connect with these unions if we expect to move forward at all. And that's just, and this is not just talking about library hours, but with anything. If you talk about tuition, if you talk about just accessible education in general, the same rules apply. You need to be in contact with other student unions if you're going to unite students and if you're going to create this movement and be able to pressure government to lower tuition. So I think library hours are just a small way to start. I think it's completely doable because it's been done before. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I think it's completely doable to work towards at least extended library hours during exam times because it's been done before and we can do it if we just get these connections and we create this communication. think we should be active listeners and make sure we're listening and contributing and gaining input from students at all points. I think we should be engaging them in CSA initiatives because CSA initiatives are student initiatives, and we need to realize that student initiatives are also CSA initiatives. So we need to see what different groups in our campus are doing and helping them in any way we can. And we need to be accessible to students. But at the same time, we need to go beyond accessibility. We need to make sure that it's not just about leaving our doors open or having office hours or giving out our emails, but it's about outreaching and going up to students and asking them what they want. Because I want extended library hours, but there's no way I could know what students want if I don't ask. So we need to outreach. We can't just expect students to come into the CSA office. And even when they come into the CSA office, we need to be able to provide them with information about our services at every turn, and we need to outreach to students, talk in classrooms. I want to work with other commissioners very closely. I want to work with the Communication and Corporate Affairs Commissioner very closely, and I think we can make the CSA very attainable to students, and we can make it so that students know what's going on in the CSA, and not only the CSA, but our university, because we are involved in the university. So I think it's important to outreach to students. As I mentioned before, I have many pre-established relationships around our campus. I've sat on the Ethical Purchasing Committee, and I've been elected the chair of the Ethical Purchasing Committee. I've also, through this opportunity, I was able to meet representatives from local unions, the Human Rights and Equity Office, athletics, as well as the CSA representative, who I've actually met before, but she sits on this committee as well. I've also been able to communicate with unions, student unions around Ontario. I was a delegate from the University of Guelph to the Canadian Federation of Students Ontario semi-annual general meeting. I was able to talk to students from Ryerson Student Union and Ottawa Union, and I've noticed the need for us to connect. For example, Ottawa students are currently working towards obtaining a universal bus pass, and they're looking at what Guelph did to bargain for this. And at the same time, I would like to work towards extended library hours, and I can go up to York Federation of Students and say, hey, how were you able to get a 24 library hour access to your library during exam times? And I think these connections are important, and I think understanding that these connections are important is a vital part of the External Affairs Commissioner portfolio. So that's Yes, I know this position very well. I worked with last year's External Affairs Commissioner, and I worked with this year's External Affairs Commissioner. I was involved in the Drop Fees campaign. I was in the Drop Fees committee. I connected with students to this committee. We collectively organized this event, and we try to empower students as much as possible. I think it's important to lobby government and to work with government, but one of the most important things I think we need to realize is that if the government had nothing but student interest in mind, and if our administration had nothing but student interest in mind, there would not be a need for a union to exist. So I think it's important to work with the administration, and I think it's important to work with our government, but at the same time, we need to realize that there are times when we're not going to agree, and we need to be ready and have student support when this time comes. And this is true with all unions. Labor unions go through this as well. And I think we need to show solidarity with these labor unions, and I think we need to show solidarity with other student unions, and I think we need to be ready to unite and make change happen.